Fujimoto is a genius. The way he is writing both Asa and Denji in this arc truly makes me think this is the best arc of Chainsaw Man ever. Let's discuss that and so much more. This is Chainsaw Man, chapter 127. You nerds. So, this picks up from the last chapter as per usual. After the Falling Devil finds Asa, she seems to just swipe with her finger, nearly plunging her to hell. The Falling Devil then puts both of her hands on her head and says that she can tell Asa's attachment to life and the living is rather weak. However, the thing that Asa is scared of now is basically the impact and the darkness of the sky. This is something that the Falling Devil can tell just by simply having her hands on Asa's head. The Falling Devil then promises to make her end peaceful if all she would do is basically close her eyes. And then so Asa has a flashback of memories. She sees all of the people who have betrayed her in some way and decides enough is enough and let's go. As she starts to fall upward, she says that because of her choice that she won't cause people trouble for anyone. She will never get her feelings hurt anymore. She won't have to lie in bed every night filled with all of these thoughts of how she wronged other people or simply failed in some way. There is though one thing that she wished she could do with just one person, and simply put, we don't know what that is because right as she thinks this thought, Denji, as Chainsaw Man, appears and grabs her by the hand. Of course, obviously, Asa is surprised that Chainsaw Man has come to save her and tries to wiggle out of his grasp because she wants to fall. She wants to die. She doesn't want to live at this point. And the reason for that is, well, pretty much explained in the next moment. This is when we learn why Asa has accepted her situation. She's okay with falling because to her, life is nothing but pain and full of expectations that she can't fulfill. The more she says and thinks these things, the faster they start to fall upward. So Denji tells her to think happier thoughts like dogs and cats. And on a side note, I like that because just who are a few of the most important people in Denji's life? A dog lover and a cat lover. So for him, he likes both of those things. And so for him, that also shows that this is some of the happy things that he thinks about. When he's depressed, he thinks about dog and cats, which is rather very simplistic of Denji to do, but also at the same time, very fitting of Denji's character because he's not a super smart guy. But this is where Fujimoto shined in this chapter. As you can see Asa coming to grips and bringing herself back down to reality. She even yells at Denji to stop making her remember cats, and he reassures her that he knows how she feels. However, and rightfully so, Asa asks how he could know. As to her, there is nobody worse than Asa Mitaka. So Denji then describes basically a scenario where just when good things happen, soon after the bad comes, that she knows life isn't all bad, but it just keeps piling up over and over. And Denji is, I think, really unknowingly very charming in the way he describes all of this as stuff like, a hamburger made of crap. I think that is a really good analogy and metaphor to use because it shows the way that Denji thinks, and it also, I think, helps calm her down in the moment quite a bit because it's almost kind of like you have to do a double take, and it's almost you have to take your mind off the thing you're thinking because you hear something so ridiculous as a hamburger made of crap. But then a beautiful moment occurs where as the two are holding on to each other in midair, and I cannot wait to see Mappa adapt this scene. It's probably going to be beautiful. She asks how he, Chainsaw Man, copes with everything that he's went through. And man, I'm just so floored at this writing. It's so good. He says that, well, to simply put, he hasn't yet. The only thing that he knows is he has something to live for and is willing to eat that crap burger if that's what it takes to get there. And just as you think he's gonna say something noble, like raising Naya to right, getting his friend power back, or going to therapy for the whole Himi-chan thing, fucking Dennis says sex, which then creeps Asa out, and we end the chapter with her squinting and cringing going, ew. So a pretty good end to the chapter, nonetheless, I would say. Much more positive than, say, the last chapter. But I gotta say, okay, guys, I freaking love this arc so far. We gotta talk about Asa and Denji in this chapter, because while I think many people will write this whole thing off as a funny subversion of expectations, I think this writing is not only a masterstroke of genius by Fujimoto, but most importantly, I think it's really genuine. Just like you, subscribing to never miss a Chainsaw Man video. Asa, at this point in the story, has given up. This is for her the absolute rock bottom. even before the falling devil influenced her mind here as well. Because if you think about it, this comes after repeated betrayal by people she trusted and considered close. This comes after the war devil fused with her. This comes after the falling devil and possibly many more devils wanting to hunt her down for some inexplicable reason. But for any normal person, even one of these things, like just one betrayal, are too much for some. So when the falling devil talks her talk, she decides to listen and let go. And honestly, I can't blame her. In this moment, she accepts all of these bad things and just wants to die. She can no longer cope with her reality, as her reality is nothing but agony and suffering. However, just as she gives up, Chainsaw Man arrives and grabs onto her because while she maybe has given up on herself, there are other people in her life that refuse to give up on her, and one of those people is named Denji. Because while Denji has had arguably more and worse things happen to him than Asa, he still believes there is a life worth living somewhere in all of the chaos in his life. This was the counterbalance, really, that Asa so desperately needed, which is just another side, a sobering reality that despite all which may throw us for a loop, even in all of that, there is still a good fight to be fought, which is what Denji in this moment represents. For Denji, rather humorously, that thing is sex, and while that's a really dumb thing to say in that moment, it was needed. Because even if that one reason to live is just to have sex, if you think about it, that's more than enough to keep living, if that's a goal you're really set on. So because of this, Denji accepts that he will have to eat a lot of crap to get to that place he wants to be, which is in somebody's bed. But really, that is life at the end of the day. Everyone has their struggles. Everyone has those dark thoughts of our mortality, and you know what I mean. And that's because that's what makes us human. Asa needed to hear Chainsaw Man say that to her, and even as well. I mean, Asa herself in that moment wished for one thing for seemingly one person, and whatever that is, she needs to start channeling that, because that dream she has is a dream that is worth living and fighting for. Even if she says, I just want to eat another cheeseburger that's made out of crap. Even if it is that. But I thought that Fujimoto did a wonderful job here, as I've had many friends and colleagues in my life have these discussions with me. So when I read this, honestly, I was almost moved to tears. It was so relatable in my position. People really do think like this. They really do think that they're nothing but trouble and sit in bed all night with these thoughts of failure and resentment for themselves. So to see Fujimoto be so in touch with those people and what ails them really was nothing short of beautiful in my eyes. And Fujimoto, because of this, has earned a considerable amount of respect from me. Both Asa and Denji in this moment just really shined as characters and as well people. So Fujimoto, hats off to you. And if I ever get the chance to speak to him one day, I would ask him about this moment in this chapter. But I also as well want to say this to you guys, I think it's important, especially after the ending of this chapter. All it takes is one person to change the tide of somebody else's life, and yours by default. So if you see somebody struggling out there who's having a rough go of it, someone like Asa or someone like Denji, just be there, just be nice and kind to them, because your kindness can make them change their whole perspective. They could be like Asa, thinking they're worthless and suicidal to a degree, but it could be you that changes that person's life. And I've seen it happen multiple times in my life, both people treating me with kindness and me treating other people with kindness. So I just want to say that before we leave. Also, as well, another side note, I asked on Twitter if people thought the Falling Devil arc was the best in the series yet. And so I want to get your thoughts on that specific question in the comments below for today's video. So if you haven't already, please do check out my videos on the previous chapters. Thank you for watching. Make sure to be that force that changes the tides for somebody else's life. Bye-bye.